Welcome to Brittany's Archive of Curiosity. Are you fascinated by the audacity of bank heists? In the world of crime, few stories captivate our imagination quite like the daring and often disastrous bank heists. From carefully laid plans to chaotic failures, these robberies leave behind a trail of intrigue and unanswered questions. Today, we're diving into the top 10 most infamous bank heists in U.S. history. Buckle up, because truth is stranger than fiction. Number 1. The United California Bank Heist of 1972. Mastermind Emil Dincio, a professional burglar with a history of bank heists, led a gang that included his brother James, his nephew Harry, and several other trusted associates. Their inside information came from a corrupt banker who knew the vault housed millions. The gang scouted the United California Bank in Laguna Niguel, discovering it had a poorly secured vault. They rented a condo nearby to use as a base of operations. Using their extensive experience, they prepared tools, including dynamite and drills, to breach the vault. Under the cover of night, the crew climbed onto the bank's roof, drilled through, and entered the vault. Over the course of several hours, they emptied safe deposit boxes, stealing cash, valuables, and gold. One of the gang members failed to dispose of duct tape used during the heist, leaving behind fingerprints. The FBI tracked the rental car they used and matched it to the gang's activities. The gang was arrested after the FBI connected them to similar heists in Ohio. Emil Dincio and his crew received prison sentences ranging from 15 to 20 years. Most of the $9 million stolen was never recovered. The case remains one of the largest cash robberies in U.S. history. It inspired bank security improvements nationwide. Number 2. The Brinks Job of 1950. The heist was carried out by an 11-man gang, including mastermind Tony Pino and longtime criminal Joseph Specs O'Keefe. The group had connections to organized crime in Boston. Over 18 months, the gang surveilled the Brinks Depot, learning employee schedules, building layouts, and security protocols. They crafted duplicate keys to access the depot. The plan was to minimize risk by executing the heist in under 30 minutes. On January 17, 1950, the crew disguised themselves in masks, gloves, and navy pea coats. They entered the depot just before closing, tied up employees, and stole $1.2 million in cash and $1.5 million in checks. They left behind no evidence, no fingerprints, no witnesses, no clues. The gang initially got away, but cracks began to form. O'Keefe, paranoid about being betrayed, started making demands for a larger share of the money. His erratic behavior and eventual arrest for a separate crime gave the FBI an opportunity to pressure him into confessing. 5 years after the heist, and just days before the statute of limitations expired, O'Keefe confessed, implicating the entire gang. Most members were sentenced to life in prison. Less than $100,000 of the $2.7 million was ever recovered. The case became a symbol of how criminal greed and mistrust lead to downfall. It was later immortalized in movies, including The Brinks Job of 1978. Number 3. The Dunbar Armored Robbery of 1997. Mastermind Alan Pace, a regional safety inspector for Dunbar Armored, recruited 5 friends for the heist. Each member had specific roles, from logistics to loading the cash. Pace used his insider knowledge to identify weaknesses in the Dunbar Armored Vault in Los Angeles. He knew the layout, camera blind spots, and the best time to strike, Friday night, when the vault held the most cash. On the night of the heist, the crew ambushed employees during a shift change, tied them up, and neutralized security cameras. They loaded $18.9 million in cash into a rented U-Haul and fled. One of the gang members carelessly spent a marked bill at a gas station, triggering an investigation. Authorities traced the bill back to Pace, who had left behind enough evidence to connect him to the crime. All members of the crew were arrested. Pace was sentenced to 24 years in prison. While much of the money was recovered, a significant portion remains missing. The case exposed vulnerabilities in armored truck companies, prompting stricter security measures. Number 4. The Loomis Fargo Heist of 1997. Inside man David Gant partnered with former co-worker Kelly Campbell and her friend Steve Chambers, who recruited additional accomplices. Gant, who worked at Loomis Fargo as a vault supervisor, stole $17.3 million directly from the vault. The group planned to hide the money until the investigation cooled, then split the loot. On the night of the heist, Gant loaded the cash into a van, drove it to Chambers' crew, and fled to Mexico. Chambers and Campbell lived extravagantly, spending large amounts of cash on luxury items. Chambers' conspicuous spending drew FBI attention. Tensions between Gant and the group increased when they stopped sending him money in Mexico, forcing him to communicate with the others and leaving a trail for investigators. Gant and the entire crew were arrested. Most were sentenced to between 6 and 25 years. About $2 million of the $17.3 million was never recovered. The heist inspired the 2016 film Masterminds. Number 5. The North Hollywood Shootout of 1997. Larry Phillips Jr. and Emil Matasareanu, heavily armed and wearing homemade body armor, intended to rob a Bank of America branch, using military-grade weapons to overpower any resistance. On the morning of February 28, they stormed the bank, firing at employees and customers before filling their bags with cash. The robbery turned chaotic when police responded more quickly than expected, resulting in a massive shootout. Their body armor slowed them down, making them vulnerable during their attempted getaway. Police used armor-piercing rounds borrowed from a nearby gun store to subdue them. Both robbers were killed. 11 police officers and 7 civilians were injured. No money was successfully stolen. The shootout prompted police forces across the U.S. to upgrade their weaponry and equipment. Number 6. The Great St. Louis Bank Robbery of 1953. A gang of 4 men led by Fred William Bowerman, an ex-convict with a reputation for violence, meticulously planned the robbery, staking out the Southwest Bank in St. Louis, Missouri. The plan was simple: strike during the afternoon when the bank was least busy, use weapons to intimidate staff, and escape quickly with the cash. On April 24, 1953, the gang attempted the robbery. Armed with guns, they entered the bank and demanded money. However, they underestimated the bank's security measures. The alarm was triggered, and police arrived within minutes. A shootout erupted, with officers and bystanders caught in the crossfire. The gang's lack of organization became evident during the chaos. One member panicked and abandoned the group. Bowerman was fatally wounded during the shootout, while another gang member was arrested at the scene. 2 of the robbers were sentenced to life in prison. The robbery left a lasting impression on St. Louis residents, leading to tighter bank security and emergency protocols. The heist inspired the 1959 film The Great St. Louis Bank Robbery, starring a young Steve McQueen. Number 7. The Banco Central Burglary of 2005. A team of 25 thieves led by Antonio Jusavan Alves disguised themselves as landscapers and rented a house near Banco Central in Fortaleza, Brazil. Over several months, the gang dug a 256-foot tunnel leading directly into the bank's vault. The tunnel was reinforced with wood and plastic and equipped with lighting and air circulation. On the weekend of August 6 through 7, 2005, the gang broke into the vault and stole over 160 million Brazilian reais, which is approximately $70 million US. The heist went undetected until the bank opened on Monday morning. Several members began flaunting their newfound wealth, drawing attention to themselves. Police eventually tracked the group using witness accounts and evidence left behind in the tunnel. Over 40 arrests were made, but only a fraction of the money was ever recovered. Alves and other leaders were sentenced to decades in prison. The heist remains one of the largest in history and exposed significant vulnerabilities in global banking security. Number 8. The Northern Bank Robbery of 2004. Believed to be the work of the Provisional Irish Republican Army, though no direct charges were made. The gang consisted of at least 10 members, many of whom remain unidentified. On December 19, 2004, the gang kidnapped 2 bank employees and their families, holding them hostage. The employees were forced to open the vault at Northern Bank's headquarters in Belfast, Northern Ireland. The robbers calmly loaded 26.5 million pounds, approximately 41 million US dollars, into vehicles and drove away undetected. They left no evidence behind, and the employees complied out of fear for their family's safety. Although the heist was executed flawlessly, suspicions of IRA involvement brought significant attention from international law enforcement agencies, including the FBI. The money became difficult to launder due to its marked nature. No arrests were ever made, and most of the money was never recovered. The heist heightened tensions in the region and led to tighter security measures at banks worldwide. Number 9. The North Hollywood Shootout of 1997. Larry Phillips Jr. and Emil Matasareanu, heavily armed and wearing homemade body armor, intended to rob a Bank of America branch, using military-grade weapons to overpower any resistance. On the morning of February 28th, they stormed the bank, firing at employees and customers before filling their bags with cash. The robbery turned chaotic when police responded more quickly than expected, resulting in a massive shootout. Their body armor slowed them down, making them vulnerable during their attempted getaway. Police used armor-piercing rounds borrowed from a nearby gun store to subdue them. Both robbers were killed. 11 police officers and 7 civilians were injured. No money was successfully stolen. The shootout prompted police forces across the U.S. to upgrade their weaponry and equipment. Number 10. The $500 million cyber heist of 2016. A group of unidentified hackers, later linked to North Korean cybercriminals, targeted the New York Federal Reserve. They exploited weaknesses in the SWIFT banking system to access Bangladesh Bank's account. The hackers used stolen credentials to initiate fraudulent wire transfers from Bangladesh Bank's account at the Federal Reserve. Their goal was to transfer nearly $1 billion to accounts in the Philippines, Sri Lanka, and other countries. They successfully transferred $81 million before the heist was detected. A typo in one of the transfer requests, spelling foundation as fandation, raised suspicion, leading to an investigation. The typo caused one transfer to be flagged by Deutsche Bank, which alerted authorities. The remaining $870 million in fraudulent transfers was halted before it could be processed. While $81 million was initially stolen, authorities managed to recover $15 million. The remaining $66 million disappeared into casinos and the underground economy in the Philippines. Investigations revealed that North Korean hackers, including the infamous Lazarus Group, were behind the attack. The heist exposed vulnerabilities in international banking systems, prompting reforms in cybersecurity protocols for SWIFT transactions. It also highlighted the growing threat of state-sponsored cybercrime. Each of these heists, whether pulled off with brute force or intricate planning, offers a unique glimpse into the minds of criminals and the systems they sought to exploit. But in almost every case, human error or greed led to their downfall. Which of these heists shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales of curiosity and intrigue.